Happy Friday, Matt.
Happy Friday, man. The sun's out.
It's weird.
Yeah, I don't like complaining about the weather, but I mean, it's been pretty awful.
I know. It's like, okay, can we not talk about the weather, the coronavirus, or politics?
That's impossible.
Or should we do an entire podcast about the weather, coronavirus?
Probably get
politics?
our most views ever.
Yeah, exactly. Except we would just be blabbering on about nothing. Yeah, you know what? It's Friday in the ATL, so I'm actually going to go home and put on a Speedo and lay out on the deck and get some sun.
Where the hell did that come from?
I just wanted I want you to go home today with a visual that will stick with you all weekend.
If this is a telling sign of what's going to happen in this podcast, we're in trouble.
Well, you know, I think about that like old school, when the sun came out. I was joking about this earlier with somebody, you know, like getting a tan, and like it brought me all the way back to like when I was sort of in high school and then getting into college, and really when fitness first became a thing and we first opened here, tanning beds were hot. They had probably come out, I would say, when I was in high school. Did you ever get in a tanning bed?
No.
Yeah.
My wife does, but
yeah. Oh, she does? She still does?
Yeah, you know, getting ready for pool season.
Oh, that's different. Yeah. I mean, we used to do it like all the time. And, you know, I tan like wallpaper, so I had to get in there like every day. No clothes on. I'm pretty sure I've got to have cancer pop up in some of the worst areas ever. I get that checked regularly. Get your skin checks, folks. Public service
No wonder
announcement.
you do that all the time.
Yeah, you got to do it, man. It's like, how dumb were we? We didn't know. It's like the coolest thing ever. My high school girlfriend worked at a tanning salon. I go in there every day. Just bake myself. Come out smelling like a burnt hot dog. It's the worst.
Oh, gosh, that's another podcast, you know.
Yeah, we could, there's a lot of subjects we could
We'll
cover.
just do Rick's high school years.
Yeah, that could cover a lot. All right, so for the sake of our poor listeners, what are we covering today?
Today, because you are our grand entrepreneur, we're going to talk about the 3 must-dos for entrepreneurs. You ready?
Yeah, I've got
we talked
a million
about it
and one ideas. Yeah, I mean, this is something we talk about a lot. And, you know, it's funny because I treat you and talk to you like an entrepreneur. In some ways, I think you are, like you think like an entrepreneur. You're probably the freewheeling, most liberated guy on any team that basically can call your own shots and do whatever you want to do. So it's almost like...
It's nice. Don't mess with me, man.
I just leave you alone, because the more I leave you alone, the better work you do. It's like the worst thing I can do is get in your way at this point.
That's
So
right.
you think like an entrepreneur, you do. So that being said, the way we talked about it in the past were these sort of buckets of things. So is that the way you want to organize it?
Yeah, so we made a list of 3.
All right.
So we'll just start rattling them off. So in terms of being a good entrepreneur and keeping the fire going, kind of the first one we're going to talk about is exercise.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, let me back up a second. I hate to do this, but entrepreneurship is really popular. And I really mean that. Like, everybody's like, get on your grind, be your own boss. Like, it's amazing, you know, and it's a whole new economy. You can make money in a lot of different ways. I mean, you can open toys on YouTube and make $12 million a year. I mean, it's a great time to be an entrepreneur. There are a lot of ways to monetize anything in your life, whether it's your intellectual property, your ass if you have a nice one. I mean, it's like you can make money with anything that you want really these days, which I think is really a great time to be an entrepreneur. But you're still at the end of the day an entrepreneur, and I think nobody talks about the downsides of being an entrepreneur, or the challenges, I should say, because it's really like you're choosing it, so you can't bitch about it, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of challenges to being an entrepreneur that I think people overlook, right? And so that's really why we talk about this a lot. Is it's like, yeah, it's popular and sexy, but it's sort of like the iceberg scenario where people only see the very tip, which is the success, and they don't see all the shit. You know, 99% of what's underwater that they don't see is, in my case, 30 years of sweat and tears and almost going out of business. And, you know, some days cracking up a bottle of wine, some days like crawling under my desk and wanting to burn the place to the ground. It's like, you know, vacillating. Sometimes that's hour over hour, right, as an entrepreneur. And I think to live in that hectic mindset for years on end, yeah, I've picked up a few things. And so that's what I hope to share. And just, I hope that the entrepreneurs listening, this will ring true to them. And I think maybe if you're a young entrepreneur, you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, just take heed in some of the things that I'm going to talk about, because it's the only way that you're going to survive long-term in this kind of fray, if you will, of entrepreneurship. So you mentioned exercise, and I think it's really important that you make time for yourself is where we'll start. I think that goes, we talk about that through the lens of our clients here.
Yeah.
Make time for yourself. You know, you're going to be a better person. And we know all the science behind it. And so do a lot of people in fitness, right? So do entrepreneurs that are in fitness. And that's where we do a lot of work. And I think people listening to this would be surprised, and people that are entrepreneurs in fitness are going to kind of laugh to themselves when I tell everyone that just because you're in fitness all day, every day, doesn't mean it's easier to exercise.
Sure.
And, people say, oh, you own a gym, you must work out all day. And it's like the last thing in the world anybody wants to do when you're in a place for 12 hours is work out there. That would be like, if you worked at home in your office, would you want to pull out some kettlebells from the closet and do some swings at the end of the night? I don't think so.
I tell people that all the time.
Yeah. So nobody wants to work out in their own environment. So it really helps to get out of that environment, go somewhere else, go to a place where no one knows you. People aren't asking questions. You don't spot cobwebs and dirty towels and, a million little things that need to be improved. It's really hard to exercise in your own business.
Yes.
It really is. But it's critical. And the science that the fitness people listening to this know, and that the ones that aren't in fitness might not know, is there's real brain chemistry changes to exercise. And I think there's 1,000,001 studies that people can go and look up around this. But if you take just some of the feedback from the customers that we have, or like, my wife likes me so much better, or I'm literally smarter, because I exercise, and it's the only thing I can do. It's a healthy outlet for me to relieve my stress. And no one has more stress or sort of wacky brain activity than an entrepreneur, than that sort of, squirrel brain of an entrepreneur. So one way to settle that and put things back into perspective is to exercise. So then you would say, well, how, what should I do for exercise? It's like, well, we know that both strength training and cardio give you brain benefits, right? Obviously, as a brand, we lean heavier towards strength training because we're working with a clientele that's like my age and up, which is essentially folks that are losing muscle mass, right? And so if you're an entrepreneur and you're sitting all day, every day, if you're programming or you're working on an app, or you're more in the tech sector where you don't get a lot of physical activity, you're really going to have to carve out the time to do that. The only way to do that is really to put it on your schedule.
Yeah.
Now, some people say like exercise first thing in the morning, like get up, get it done before anything else happens. And there are some statistics that will prove that people that work out in the morning are typically more successful because nothing gets in the way. What I will say is you're probably better off scientifically and brain chemistry wise, not going first thing in the morning. So give it till maybe lunch, downturn in the day. There's a proven sort of rhythm to everyone's day. And people usually are most creative like mornings or evenings. Middle of the day is a little off, right, for brain activity. So, but it isn't necessarily a downturn in your physical activity, right, or your physical performance. So it's not a bad idea to work up until late morning. Maybe you go till 10 or 11, noon, whatever that is, take a break, go exercise, come back, get a shower, get some lunch. So you're sort of filling up these dead brain hours when you're not going to have your entrepreneurial genius at its best. Fill that time up with exercise.
Yeah.
And then get back at it in the afternoon, evening. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, I've got meetings all day and, I can't do that. And it's like, well, you're the entrepreneur, like you created this. So change your schedule. I know you're beholden to clients sometimes, but at the same time, not even in fitness, but certainly in fitness, but also not in fitness, but you can control it. You got to set the time aside on your calendar.
Yeah. How'd you do that? You used to travel quite a bit. Your schedule was changing daily. What did you do? You just put it in there and said, this is happening.
Yeah. Listen, I laugh about when we first opened here, the first 10 years, I didn't go anywhere. I just came to the gym and went home all day, every day. And I still had entrepreneur brain, but we worked with a lot of entrepreneurs or people that were higher up in maybe, financial management, consulting, things like that. And they did travel a good deal. And I remember telling them, listen, when you travel, just don't go out to eat. And they're like, well, I'm entertaining clients. I'm like, well, fine. Then just have like a dry chicken and broccoli or whatever my ridiculous suggestion was at the time. And don't have any alcohol, right? Work out in your room.
What a dud.
Right? And like it gives you perspective. So go from that to then we start consulting and then we start licensing. And I'm traveling all over the world. I'm traveling 42 weeks out of the year at one point, right? And to look back with that perspective at my advice when I never traveled just made me laugh. It's like, give me a break. Like there's no way you can not go out with clients. That's kind of the part of it. And then when you go out, you're not going to go out and, not have a glass of wine or always eat perfectly. And if somebody wants to share dessert, you're going to be like, nope, I don't do that. You can do it for a while, but 42 weeks of travel, it's not going to happen. So yes, you need to be realistic, but still with that schedule, I'm not saying that's the best schedule for your health. Like my back was more sore then than ever. I gained some body fat. It wasn't ideal for my health and fitness, but I didn't let it go. I still worked out, right? And also, pick a place to stay that has a type of facility that's motivating to you. I also used to tell people, well, here, I'm going to give you this hotel room workout to do on your own. That is the worst. It's not fun at all. So I can remember the first time I traveled a few times, I didn't get my workout in and I was exhausted. And I was like, man, this is way harder than I thought it was, for business. And then I remember thinking, well, I'm going to do what I tell my clients to do. I'm going to work out in my hotel room. And so I made this decision after I was on the road, and I'd already proven to myself that I wasn't working out. So lo and behold, I did not bring any workout gear. So I'm like, okay,
God,
I'm going to do this, right? So here's me. I'm in like a Hampton Inn. So it's not like I'm at a super nice place, not a dump, but not a super nice place. And I'm going to work out. So I have no workout clothes. So here I am like a straight up gladiator, right? Like no clothes on.
what the hell?
Right. And it was before I was probably as germophobic as I am now. So I'm like, I'm getting down on the floor, man. I'm doing all kinds of stuff, right? So I do this whole workout, body weight, single leg squats and all this stuff. I don't want to give you guys too many visual images of exercises, right? Well, I finished my workout, and I'm like feeling really good. Like I did this, right? And so I'm in the restroom and I'm like shaving and I'm getting ready and I'm thinking, man, I've got something scratchy, right? Sort of at the top of my butt. I mean, really it was. So there's something scratchy there. So I reach around to figure out what is this, right? And lo and behold, I pluck a toenail out of the top of my butt crack.
I told y'all this podcast is going to get weird.
So, I mean, I have no idea why I would tell you guys that, other than the fact that like it gives you perspective, right? Like, sure, work out in your hotel room with no weights until you come up with a toenail in your butt crack, and then all bets are off. Never do that again, right? And so I understand the challenges of travel and eating on the road and entertaining clients, but around all of that, you can still get 3 days a week of exercise,
right.
Sometimes even more. If you stay in a facility or a hotel that has a nice gym in it, some of the nicer hotels have great facilities in them, again, if it's going to help your brain chemistry, it's going to help your mood, it's going to help you think faster, think clearer, make better decisions. Yep. It's like a performance enhancing drug. Why would you not do it? So I know it sucks. I know you don't want to do it. And in that case scenario, maybe you do have to go in the mornings. Maybe you get a quick in before dinner that night. And that's kind of what I've resigned myself to. I travel about half as much now, but when I travel, it's like, always bring your workout gear because you never know. Avoid the toenails.
Toenail on your butt crack.
You don't want a toenail on the butt crack. And then B, it's like, it just makes me feel better. Like if I'm doing a talk or I'm meeting with clients or I'm, whatever I'm doing, meeting about a bigger picture strategy, I'm much better off if I get some exercise.
I always have my best ideas after working out or when I'm working out, right?
I mean, how many times you had a problem? Like I used to trail run a lot, right? And just something about being out in nature, like just walking, like just go walking around the neighborhood. Like that moving meditation is really good for people, right? And so sometimes with the biggest problems I've had, I've solved just walking through the woods. Right. I mean, just some headphones on.
So basically, what we tell anybody, it needs to be a priority and to know it's a very slippery slope. I mean, when you stop, you start, don't work out 1 week, don't work out 2, you're going to start feeling it, but then it's going to be harder to get back and get moving.
Well, yeah. And you tell yourself, well, I don't have time. Like I'll get to it when, like I'll grind this out. I've got a surge right now. We're going to blow through this quarter. I've got this one more initiative. We're going to launch this new SaaS platform at the end of this quarter. Then I'm going to start working out. You're not, it's not going to happen. And so plus when you're most in the weeds mentally, that's when you need it the most. It's literally going to enhance your performance. So how can you be at the most critical time in your business and not put yourself in a position to make the best decisions and think about things through the clearest lens that you could possibly have? Right. That's what exercise is going to do for you. So I know it sounds self-serving coming from the fitness side. That's why I've started this whole exercise section by saying that most fitness people don't work out either. Once they open a gym, it's like, holy smokes, I never work out. And I mean, how many fitness professionals have you seen that come on that go, hey, I've been living with integrity. I'm putting this out publicly. This is my year. I got to get myself back in shape. And you think, gosh, you own a gym, you don't work out. But I get it.
It's hard.
Just a business. Could be a hot dog stand at the end of the day. Could be an ice cream shop. It's same shit. So yeah, exercise is critical. You have to get it done. And just think about it as a performance enhancer, right? Yeah. It's like taking steroids for your business. That's the way I would look at it.
Oh, when you do it, and you're working out, and then you stop, you feel really bad, obviously. I always think, I'm like, God, I mean, people that don't work out, do they just feel crappy all the time? Do they
just
even
don't
know they
the
feel
diff-
crappy?
They don't know the difference.
Isn't that crazy?
They don't know. Yeah, they don't know the difference. Right?
They don't even know they feel
They
bad.
don't. Yeah, exactly. Well, and maybe that's
Maybe that's the ticket. Don't do it.
Ignorance is bliss. Either never work out or keep doing it. But yeah, ignorance is bliss. But it's no excuse not to do it, especially if you're an entrepreneur. I would assume that you're relatively intelligent. You could put a couple of complex things together and solve problems. Well, do a minute's worth of Google research on what happens to your brain when you exercise. And you're basically saying that, hey, I'm gonna put myself out there and I'm gonna risk everything I have and expose myself to the ultimate failure. And I'm gonna do all of that while hamstringing myself by not being my best because I'm not willing to put aside 15, 20, 30 minutes to do some exercise. It's like, good luck to you, you know.
I ain't gonna make it. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2, we're gonna talk about community. So tell me what community means in terms of an entrepreneur. And how that helps them.
You know, I think one thing that people don't tell you about entrepreneurship, this is probably something that you and I have never really talked about, is it's got to be one of the loneliest endeavors that you can possibly do. There are times when I lay in bed at night, and as much as I have you to bounce ideas off of, I've got a great partner, I've got a million friends in the industry, you feel like you are completely on an island and you are 100% by yourself. And to be honest, that feeling sucks. It really does, because you feel like, you know, sometimes you feel like, am I crazy? You know, there's something called imposter syndrome, which everyone has, which is where you feel like, you know, if you keep pushing it, eventually everyone's going to find out that you're not as smart as you're saying that you are. And they're going to be like, ha, I knew it. I knew you weren't that smart, right? And it's like this fear that drives you. And it could be good because it drives you to be better, but it's always gnawing at you. Mm-hmm. And it's the times when you're kind of by yourself in any kind of a quiet time that voice is the loudest of all. And so I would say, when I say community, I mean a community of people that is like-minded, that can understand where you're coming from, right? And so for me, I joined a group a few years ago called Vistage, and I had Tim Fulton, you know, who was my Vistage chair, so he's kind of my coach for the Vistage group, on here a few weeks ago. We talked a little bit about Vistage, but for me, it was just a group of 15 people that we got together. They were all entrepreneurs, and we were all from different industries. You know, it was like commercial roofing and, you know, software and pest control and big companies, you know, much bigger than ours. So I was the dumbest guy in the room, which is, from what I understand, the right room to be in, right? But as we would talk about these challenges that we had, it was so interesting that everyone had the same challenges, right? You know, people would bring up, like, do you have a family member working in your business who's overpaid, who's underperforming? And everyone's like, oh, I got my brother-in-law, moved him into the back of the warehouse and I still can't get rid of him because my wife would kill me. And, you know, it's so funny how, and you just have this camaraderie around this sort of paranoia that comes along with being an entrepreneur, you know? And so I think it's really good to have a community. You know, we started one a few years ago. My buddy Frank Nash and I started one called Secret Trainer Society, which is kind of a joking term, but it was for studio owners. It was so fun to get in a room and just swap ideas. And I would say, like, we would drive an agenda, like, hey, we're going to cover these things, or have somebody come in and do a sales seminar or a financial health seminar or whatever that is. But the real gold nuggets in those meetings would come in the side conversations, right? Yeah. Over a beer, you know, or pre-breakfast or over lunch or between, you know, on break out in the hallway. That's where those real good conversations would come into play. And you would find that you would have this common bond with these folks who might be from the other side of the country, maybe from the other side of the world, right? Because you have the same,
right, similar pain points and all over the place, right?
Yeah, you do. You really do. And so I would say that to get into some type of a community that is around entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of them out there. There's there's a lot of entrepreneur groups in every city. Mm-hmm. You know, join a business group. Some people do it through the church. Some people do it through, you know, I don't know. There's a million venues to do it in, but you're going to have to go out and find it. And sometimes you don't want to because you're really busy and you're like, the last thing I want to do is talk to more people. Right. But you'd be crazy not to get into some kind of a group.
When you say like-minded people, I mean, it's good to have people that aren't thinking exactly the same way as you, right? I mean, because as an entrepreneur, you have kind of a lot of crazy ideas. You almost need somebody to bring you back sometimes, right?
Yeah. I mean, in our Vistage group, as an example, there were varying skill sets and whatnot. And there were people in there who were, you know, they had come from the finance side, who were not very outgoing, who were really quiet, but also great leaders, right? And then you had me, who talked incessantly and, you know, makes stupid jokes all the time and like different type of leadership maybe or not. But there were different people in the group. And I think, but the common thread was we're all in business and we all had the same pain points. Like, you talk about like having people's livelihood relying on the decisions that you make. Like that doesn't seem like a big deal if you're not in that seat, but it's super heavy, right? Like you don't take it lightly. Like, just some of the tough decisions we've had to make here over time. And like that shit still haunts me today. I still stay awake at night wondering like, was that the right thing to do? Could I have done it this way? Did I handle it the right way? Did I give enough coaching, that type of thing. So it's fun when you get together with a group who you can articulate those type of thoughts and have them go, oh yeah, no, you're definitely doing the right thing. And here's why. Yeah. And that they've been in your seat and they understand how that feels, right? So I would just say some type of community. And listen, if you want to do it outside of entrepreneurship, that's fine as well. But you need a group, you need something to belong to. Because as an entrepreneur, you make decisions on an island, it affects a lot of people, and it will affect you. And if it doesn't affect you, then you might not be in the right business. I mean, if it doesn't bother you, if you have to make tough decisions around people's livelihood,
right?
Don't be an entrepreneur. You don't have the heart for it. You know what I mean? It's like, because you got to still be a person at the end of the day, right? And so I can ramble on this about forever, but I really think it's critical for the psychological well-being and spiritual well-being of an entrepreneur to get into some kind of community with like-minded people, whatever that is.
Keep you going in the right direction.
Yep.
It's easy to go off course or get in your own head and start making bad decisions. So
yes. Yeah, exactly.
So
get out.
Never done that, right?
Yeah, a million times. So, anybody listening, if you are a new entrepreneur, especially, in this day and age, we talked about the new economy, like you can do some really dynamic things online. You can be an online trainer, like in our industry. You can be a coach of anything. You can do lots of things, but you really need to get out of your office and get out. You feel like you're so well connected through social media, but as we're starting to see, research is proving that we're more disconnected than ever, right? When people are asked, about loneliness, it rates the highest in a long time. Yeah. And yet we're more connected in so many ways than we've ever been. But what we're showing is that the comparative trap of social media and other things, it actually makes you feel more disconnected.
Yeah, it's not real.
It's not real, right? And you perceive it to be real, and then when it's not, you're even more lonely than ever. So you've got to get out and make real connections with real people.
Yeah. I mean, and just through over time, my own looking around and things you've introduced me to, I mean, there's a lot to be learned from other industries and other, services that, maybe not even in fitness yet. We've learned a lot, just say, like example, the Ritz, Starbucks, yes. I mean, things like that. So getting out like groups like that with lots of different people is really cool.
Yeah. I mean, just other examples of that, like, like this is an online course, but it's still good community. I took a Harvard online course and the course forced you to do collaborative projects. So I did a project with simultaneously with a lady in South Africa and a guy in Peru, right? And the South African lady was super cool. She was the marketing director for BMW automobiles in South Africa. She's from Germany originally. She used to be the marketing director for the BMW Formula One team. Super cool, right? So I'm talking to her and we're doing a project, and it was about the job of the product, which we've done a podcast on, and mine was on motorcycle helmets or motorcycle gear, right? And how it's marketed. And I could see in the back, because we were doing a screen share, I could see all these motorcycle helmets on the wall. And I'm like, what, are you into bikes? And she's like, no, my husband is the marketing director for BMW motorcycles in South Africa. So he gets on the line and we're having this great conversation. He's saying, come over, we'll do a ride through Tanzania and see the, safari. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. So just, again, that's a connection in a community, right. And so there's ways to do that. You can do, Disney has a great, leadership school. You can do sales there. You can do how to hire people. Disney has a whole suite. The Ritz-Carlton, I know Frank, was mentioned earlier for STS. He went to the Ritz-Carlton seminar, and it's all about customer service. So that puts you into rooms with like-minded people. Some of those can be pricey, and I would rather you do something more on the regular. But those are also really good supplemental ideas. For sure. Yeah, and to get out of your industry a little bit. And what you find is while industries are all different, there's a lot of commonalities as well, right? We talk about in our meeting the other day, like, what's our real job? And we use Tony Hsieh, the author of Delivering Happiness, as example. He's Zappos Shoes CEO, right? And he's like, I don't even like shoes. Like, I'm just trying to make people happy, and shoes are my vehicle. And that's how we feel about fitness sometimes. Like we're lucky to do fitness because it's easy to make people healthy, but really it's just a vehicle for us to get out and be the best part of someone's day.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, get out there, find a community, you guys, because it can be really lonely. And if you're new to it, you can grind away for a while, but take it from me. I've been in it for almost 30 years. It's like, it'll wear you out and you'll get really tired eventually. So you're going to need somebody to bounce ideas off of that understands where you're coming from.
Keep the fire going too.
Yes.
All right. And the last one, number 3, is diet. And it's not exactly what it sounds. So how about you elaborate on that? Protein? You just eat protein?
I just eat the protein.
Like just straight carnivore?
No, I'm not doing that diet. I would though.
Jurassic diet?
Delicious.
You just eat like dinosaur eggs?
Well, yeah, that's a good idea. If we find any, let me know. But when I say diet, as you guys know, diet can be what you eat, but we're not going to go there. I mean, it's important. We could talk a lot about that, but I think it goes along with exercise, right? Just try to be healthy. But when I say diet, I mean, what are you consuming on a daily basis? And you've heard there's a lot of cliche sayings around this, but there wouldn't be a lot unless it was true, right? Unless there was some merit to it. Things like, you're byproduct of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So it might even go back to community. So what are you consuming? Like, what is your diet of reading materials, right? What is your diet of conversations that you're having? Are you having high level conversations? Like the reason I like talking to you is because I'll come in and talk to you and you'll tell me about an experience you had at a spa that you bought yourself you bought your wife a gift certificate for or something, and kind of the overall buying experience around that. It's like, you know what I mean? You're thinking about that. And so those kind of conversations are part of your diet. So when I say diet, I mean anything that you intake, and more so in this case into your brain, right? And so I think it's really important as an entrepreneur that you have some discipline, which can be hard for squirrel-brained people to do something with conviction every single day. But like exercise, if you want to perform at your best and you want to be healthy and be in a good mental space over time, you're going to need to figure a few things out. One would be that I would highly recommend is, again, I mentioned maybe not working out first thing in the morning. Typically for people, that's a time when you can get up early enough to have a little bit of quiet time. There's 1,000,001 articles and research to support, a little bit of quiet time in the morning. And I think a good morning routine is probably the most important thing as far as your diet is concerned. And so what do I mean by that? Well, get up in the morning and first of all, get your shit together, like get your thoughts in order, right? Because you can wake up sometimes and again, you've had some crazy dreams about some fears at work or, God knows what kind of decisions you're gonna have to make that day. So you need to sit down, you need to be quiet for whatever you do. You don't check your email and you don't go onto social media first thing in the morning because there is real brain chemistry that proves that if you start your day that way, you are training your brain to be more reactive and less proactive. And remember, that's like the old statement of being busy but not productive. It's like you can fake yourself into like, oh, I have a lot to do today, but all you're doing is responding to other people's needs. I know that that's a good deal of what you're going to do during the day, but that's certainly not the way you should start your day. So the oldest trick in the book that I've used that's been successful is either the night before or that morning, I just have a basic index card and it's just my 5 things. And so I write down 5 things that I'm absolutely going to do that day, come hell or high water. And so those are things that I'll focus on that will get done, and those will be prioritized over any other things that come up during the day. And again, it's a simple solution that I've come up with that works. And I like the index cards and actually writing it out instead of like reminders or on my phone, just because it keeps me off of digital for a second, which is really important. So the 5 things, journaling, I gave you guys all the 5-minute journal. Tim Ferriss is the one I heard that from, that it changed his life. He had a lot of struggle with depression and things like that. And the 5-minute journal literally changed his life. And there's real brain chemistry now for those, again, around this, where for those of you guys that don't know what the 5-minute journal is, it's really a gratitude journal, and it's like a real simple structure. And they call it the 5-minute journal because it literally takes 5 minutes, which is great. And it forces you to kind of think about, again, to show gratitude. And there's so much science now that proves that there is a brain chemistry change in a positive manner if you show gratitude on a daily basis. So much so that, our benefits provider is Humana, and Humana provides
points for that.
Yeah, they give you points if you are keeping the 5-minute journal, right? So it's like, well, they wouldn't do that if there wasn't hard research that showed that there are true health benefits to gratitude. And it goes back to maybe even a little bit about the community and that feeling lonely thing. It's like gratitude can kind of pull you out of that a little bit because you start looking at all the great things you do have around you, and you're not just looking at the 1,000,001 things that you haven't done yet, right?
It's tough. I mean, sure, you've had days where you come in and say you didn't do that, and you're like, this is going to be a rough day, you know.
Yeah, it's
you
a
do
slow
that,
thing.
You feel good, right?
It's like changing your eating habits. Like the first week sucks because it's like, you got to do this journal thing, right? But lo and behold, you start feeling a little better. You get more energy, which means it's easier to eat better and it's easier to exercise. Same kind of thing with this, right? It's just a routine, and it does take some discipline, which again, for a squirrel-brained entrepreneur can be difficult. But you get up in the morning, you do your 5 things. You either did them the night before. I'm just not worth a damn at night, so I just do everything in the morning. So 5 things I'm going to do today, come hell or high water. And sometimes, people ask, well, what kind of things? And well, it can't be huge things. Like, I'm going to write a book today. I mean, you can't do that. It's got to be how to eat an elephant, right? It's got to be baby bites. So it could just be, hey, I'm going to follow up with this person today. It could just be that, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make this call. I'm going to make sure I send a gratitude note to this person. It can be little things,
right?
But the sum of 5 things a day for 365 days is a massive amount of things that you got done. And remember, these are things you're doing with purpose, not things that you're just doing because other people need you to do.
Purpose gives you accomplishment, right?
Yep. You feel good. Like at the end of the day, you've done something, right? Even if they're little things, you set a goal and you met that goal and you didn't let anything get in your way. So definitely, get up, do your 5 things or look at your 5 things, do some journaling. I think it's important. And again, it's like, I don't like write out my thoughts every day. A lot of people like to do that. Like, if you're introverted, sometimes just to get your thoughts out onto paper can be good. And if you got some shit in your head that's like really squirrely and you don't want anybody to see it, so you don't want to write it down where it can be looked at. And I've had people say this, it's like, well, open a Word document, keep it locked, and go in there and just do a daily journal, right? Just put your thoughts in there. What's
your journal look like?
It's pretty bad. Yeah, it's all locked up. It's got 13 passwords in it. NASA's protecting it. Yeah, you don't want to know. It has lots to do with toenails and exercise. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And then, anything else that you can do in that morning routine, like reading for me is good. And I have a hard time reading because there's so many other things that are more entertaining, at times than reading. And so I have to make, for me personally, I have to make a concerted effort. So I'll do an audiobook. And so 5 things, either review those or build them, right? Journal, and then put on an audiobook. And then I keep a notebook for each book, if that makes sense. So if I get traction, as example, I have a notebook that's sitting right next to it. And so I'll listen for 30 minutes is my goal. And then I'll make notes. So I'll pause. And there's a way to do that digitally, but I find that writing it down just makes it stickier for me.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a lot of pausing and stopping and starting and just taking the ideas that I'm grabbing and putting them on paper through the lens of like my business or what some actionable steps would be around that.
Yeah.
And again, if it's, I don't know, it's probably going to be the equivalent of 20 pages a day. It's not a lot, but I mean, 20 pages a day, 365 days is a lot of books in a year,
sure.
Especially when you're taking the information from those books and writing it down in a way that makes sense to you later. So when you go back and reference it, you're like, oh yeah, that's what that book meant.
Well, I mean, just besides the fact that it gets the juices flowing, man. I mean, you read those
well,
books.
How many times do you and I kick, but you're like, I just finished an amazing book, like Predictably Irrational. I love that. And you finished it and you're like, wait till you get to the free part. Yeah. I was like, oh, it's so good.
Get all fired up.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And I'm sure you've noticed this as well. You go through periods where you aren't inputting anything. So you're not filling up your cup, right? Yeah. Which is kind of what you're doing, right? It's your diet. So your diet shit, you're not putting good things in your brain. And what you notice is your output goes way down. Your output is not nearly the same when you're not consuming a good, healthy diet of information. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so we talk about this even in personal training all the time is like, if you don't have some new techniques or new ideas to teach, you're going to get bored out of your friggin' mind because it's Groundhog Day out there. Well, guess what? Read a book, do your morning routine. Hell, we got guys here that, they start at 6 for a shift. It's like, would you get up at 3:30 to do it? Would I do that if I just work from 6 to noon? Yes, that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah. I mean, every day I usually listen. I'll listen to Audible on my ride in. I mean,
yeah, that's right. You've got a long commute. Well, and that's another thing. So, base it around your lifestyle. So Matt, you live pretty far from the gym. You get in early, try to beat traffic, but you're still probably 30 minutes away, right? So that can be your moving meditation. So if you were like, look, I've got my objectives of things I'm going to do, and then my quiet time is on my commute, I'm going to put on an audio book and I'm going to just really focus on that and consume it as I'm moving. that works too. There's a lot of ways to do this. You don't have to do what I do, or, and there's books written on, perfect morning routines. I just think you need to find something on your own. Most important thing is stay off of digital, keep your brain from learning to be so reactive, especially first thing in the morning. Have some purposeful tasks that are going to be done that day that are in your prerogative that need to be done, right? Do some journaling, get some thoughts out of your head and on paper, especially as an entrepreneur. It's fun to go back and look at your ups and downs and how crazy your brain can be at times, but it's good to get that stuff out. And then again, it's your diet. Put something in the morning that's constructive. And I think if you do that consistently, give it a week or two, and you'll find that you're in a much better place mentally if you do that.
If you're doing none, just start, slowly introducing these things, right?
Yeah, 5 pages a day. How about this? When you when you use the restroom in the morning, don't bring your phone in the bathroom with you. Bring a book. It sounds stupid, but start somewhere. It's going to take some work, though. It doesn't just happen organically. You have to consciously choose to change a habit and then make it a habit, right? And then the results come later, right? It's sort of like exercise. Working out the first month is horrible, right?
Yeah.
It hurts, you're sore. It's like nothing works right. Can't get your central nervous system to cooperate. Things are uncoordinated. And all of a sudden, bam, the light bulb comes on. It's like, wow, I'll never not do this again if I can help it.
Yeah.
Same thing with the morning routine. So that's it, man. I would say exercise for the physiological reasons, right? The chemical reactions in your brain. If you want to be an A player and be the best that you can be, and I think as an entrepreneur, that's what you got into that business to do, is to kind of show the world you've got these ideas. It's like, well, what does that mean? Well, you have to bring your best self to the world, and the only way to do that is to exercise. We know that, right? Second, it's going to be lonely. It's not always as fun and as exciting. You only see the good parts on Instagram or what have you. It's not always that. It's really hard. And at times it's like suffocatingly hard, and that's just me telling everyone. It's like, it looks easy. It's so not easy. Well, you just need to get with some people who get that, who can speak your language, who understand what you're talking about.
Yep.
And then lastly, again, work on your diet. We're not talking about your actual food diet. We're talking about what you put into your brain, because again, just like exercise is good for your brain chemistry, so is your overall diet of what you consume. And I think if you can nail those 3 things and do them consistently well, you're going to put yourself in a much better position to succeed over time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just honestly, I don't have to be an entrepreneur to do these. These are big for pretty much anybody.
Yeah, great point. So I did this through the lens of entrepreneurship because that's where I sit. But Matt would tell you that he does these same things because he's in a leadership role, right? So he's a VP in our company, and he's got the same kind of responsibilities in a lot of ways that I do. So, if you're a high level executive, or honestly, if you're just, working in a cubicle right now and looking to move your way up, these things are only going to help. So I think you're like you said, it really applies to everyone.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.